Guten Tag and willkommen. We are back on PopCulture Reacts, and it's time for more Rammstein as we are embracing the self-titled or non-titled, depending on which way around you look at it, album Rammstein.
Yeah, getting the lyrics ready for reacting to these. Very dependent on which site it was on. Was Untitled, Rammstein, or whatever. But loving the album cover though. The singular match on the white background. I'd
Yes,
never seen it before, but yeah, I don't know. There's something massively captivating for something, I guess, so mundanely simple. But yeah, big into that. I'm easily impressed, obviously.
so obviously been a while since we did the last Rammstein album. Um, do you
Yeah.
know anything about the self-titled one?
The song that we are going to react to today, the first track, it was one that was talked about a lot when we first started doing Rammstein reactions. Certainly, I think because of the video. So I have a bit unfairly, but very high expectations on the video. But also, it was one where I was aware of it. I've never heard it, never seen it, but I have seen the video kind of come up on YouTube before we even started doing this. So yeah, I'm aware that there's kind of a big doings behind that. But outside of that, no, I've got nothing for this album other than knowing that for us or for me, it's the penultimate one that I've got before we've covered all their studio albums.
Yes. So this was, let me just remember because I can't remember off the top of my
May
head.
2019.
Yeah. So obviously it's been
Well, the
eight,
album's
nine
May
years.
2019. I think this song actually precedes it, doesn't it? I think this comes out in the
Yeah.
March. But yeah, yeah,
So yeah. So this was, as I said, about 10 years. Other than the song for the greatest hits that was new, Mainland. This was the first new Rammstein that we had for a long time.
do you know why,
They,
or do we know why? Like, was
well,
that gap kind?
they
Why did
were
you know?
still touring. They
Yeah,
did the greatest hits tour. They were doing some sort of festival appearances here and there. But Till had gone off to do his solo album, his first solo album.
yeah.
You
I
had
forgot that that comes out in between. Yeah,
Richard. Richard's off doing Emigrant, which I think then he had two albums out in the space between the two between the albums. So they'd sort of gone off to do bits and pieces. And I think they sort of said that they were at the time when they did the greatest hits, they didn't have an album in them. They didn't have
okay.
anything they wanted to do. So I think it's no different than an old wrestling term that we like to use. How can we miss you if you don't go away?
Yeah, and I think there is that when you are. And I don't think this is hyperbole, but when you're at the high levels of creativity that they're throwing into all of these albums, I think burnout does seem much more susceptible, doesn't it? Like when you're having to put so much in it, and I don't know, pick whichever kind of lower end pop artist when you've got someone else writing all the songs and you're just going out there and performing it. I'm not saying that that's not, it's got some difficulties to it, but yeah, I could see how they get sapped, and also as you say, like going off and doing other projects. There must be part of that, mustn't there? Where you go, especially when you uh, spend all that time writing an album, recording an album, touring an album. You probably do just want to break from that for a little while, and maybe tickle some other creative juices over there with someone else. But
Mm.
I don't know. Like I think it's nice for me because the gap between reacting to, and forget the greatest hits, but the gap between reacting is what, probably 4 or 5 months for me. Whereas
Yeah.
you guys had to wait 8 9 years, so I can't
Yes.
really complain.
So the album opens with Deutschland or Germany, um, and comes with a video, as you said, because you'd heard about the video.
And
So
weirdly enough, there's kind of a hell of a lot of pressure on this because unfortunately, sometimes the thing that you hear about the most has the most to live up to, and there is my only reticence with this is having heard video. We're going to be reacting to, or I'm going to be reacting to, because obviously you know it, but trying to do video, song, lyrics all in one go. And I do slightly fear that one thing might override another and distract me, but you know, it's a good fear to have, isn't it? Like,
So, shall we go off to Deutschland?
let's do this.
Getrennt, im Herz vereint. Wir sind schon sehr lang zusammen, dein Atem kalt, das Herz in Flammen. Mein Herz in Flammen.
Wowzers, they weren't messing around, were they?
No. Um, so, what do you want to hit first? Because there's a whole lot
Right.
there.
So first things first, I'll say that that feels like one of the hardest things that I think we've had to react to because there is so much going on, like, and I mean so much. It was really hard in a really good way, but it's really hard to not get drawn in by that video.
Yeah.
And I do, and here's a confession part. There's lots of points in that where I'm going, oh my god, I haven't read the lyrics for ages. I've missed loads of what's going on because it was hugely engrossing as a visual piece of art. And that's like it just at face value, just physically seeing what they're doing. That's before, because even in that, there is so much that I feel like I miss, but so much to kind of pick into, and your brain's kind of racing and going, oh, is that that? Is that that? That yeah, that's a chunky some bitch to work your way through, isn't it?
Yes. So we'll start with the easier bits first. Instead of trying to pull the video apart, we'll do that in a minute. The song, after the length of time that we had between No Rammstein to then getting this, My Little Rammstein Love and Heart, because they put out like a 45-second snippet
Yeah, I
about a
saw
week
something
before
when
the
I
video
called.
came
Yeah,
out.
when I called up the album, that was one of the first sort of taglines of saying was proceed or like first single was preceded by a 45-second teaser, and I just thought, and apologies to any bands out there that do that, but it's not something that I've commonly experienced. I thought, what a brilliant idea.
Because it literally just sort of came up with Rammstein and then that little 45
Yeah,
seconds of this song, and I was like, and it said like video next Friday, and
yeah.
I was like,
You couldn't see your own face then, but I do imagine that's what your face did. So watch this back when we release it because yeah, get to see what
and
excited Lacey really looks like.
yeah, I was giddy for this to come out, and as soon as I heard the song, I was like, they've not missed a beat. This is
No, I'm with you.
be- beautifully perfect Rammstein. It's exactly what I want when I hear a new Rammstein song. Is something that just grabs you straight away. And on first listen, I was like, "Fuck, this is amazing."
I was gonna say every fibre of me felt like this is, and you know, we always say it's the first time reaction, so sometimes you can go too far to the it's amazing or too far to no, but it feels like at some point in the future, X amount of listens in, I'll still settle in on this being in my top tier of Rammstein songs, musically, being the first grabber for me. As I say, this, my God, I need to go back and pour through the lyrics of this because I think that will push it even further. But yeah, I think, and again, after a gap of a long time, I don't want it to sound like an insult, but it feels very Rammstein-y in a
Yeah,
really good way. It feels like
I
they're
think.
doing things that they've done elsewhere, or like that's part of their I don't know, part of their fan base skill set, how they produce things, but not in a way where you go, oh, same old, same old. It felt
Well,
really fresh whilst feeling really them.
well, it has sort of callbacks to earlier songs. Obviously, at the
Yeah.
beginning, Du hast,
Okay. Funny enough, like I try it
and
when it's at the beginning of a video. I tend to write a note down here because I go, my memory can't be trusted to last 5 minutes, and that's one of the things I wrote down. I went, "Du hast."
and you've got Mein Herz de Flemmen, which is similar to Mein Herz brennt, which is obviously
Yeah,
My Heart is in Fire. Ich will is in there, repeated quite a few times again, which is another callback to obviously Ich will. There's just subtle little bits in there that are similarities and familiarities of other Rammstein stuff.
almost probably more so rather than it's more that layering on layering on layering like in a story, isn't it? So
Yeah,
by the time you've got to let's say 10 chapters in, it's not like they've forgotten parts of chapter 1. They're just layering on top, and they're going, this is us. And I think this will bear more fruit when I actually can come back to the lyrics. But I think the subject matter seemed very important and personal to them, which of course, you know, like it's very much talking about the country where they're born, live, etc., etc., etc. So you could go, well, no shit, Sherlock, of course it's personal to them, but it felt like it had. It didn't feel like someone was going, oh, come on, let's just knock out a song with our country name in. This felt like they had a lot to talk about, where I guess Germany is in 2019, or probably that 8 or 9 years, or maybe their whole life. But historically, and I don't know, that kind of gravitas to it, along with what they were doing musically, yeah, I think this will end up being in me when we do our Rammstein retrospective and pick things like a top 10. If we do something like that, even if we just do it offline, I feel like this will land in there.
See, here's the thing: when you look sort of lyrically at it, it's that weird juxtaposition of being proud and happy and like promoting the country, but also not hiding away from
Oh yeah,
a negative sort of bits to it as well, which is something obviously Rammstein have always done in like a lot of their stuff.
yeah, it's got
And
immense
I think,
realism to it, hasn't it? It's not like
yeah,
this isn't a puff piece tourist board come and visit Germany song, is it?
no. And then when you add that to the video, and it shows like historically accurate moments of German history, you know, the wars, the Berlin Wall being there, you know, its ancient history of being, you know, woodland and sort of the Bavarias and that sort of hunting
But
packs
again, when we
and
talk about layering, being able to layer on the extra symbolism because of the context of not just knowing that's what happened, but then what does happen. So you've been able to
yeah,
contextualize that against everything from, as you say, historical to modern to future. You know, like we've got like kind of the future elements in it as well. Yeah. So before we talk about video, 2 questions.
yes,
The piano bit at the end, Sonna, isn't it?
yes, it is a piano
That's
version of
beautiful.
Sonna.
That's beautiful. If is that on an album anywhere?
No, it might be on that classical ones that I pinged you that was on
Right.
Spotify, but I don't think it ever came out physically. If
Because I One
so,
Day in
I've
My
never
Life,
had it.
that sounds amazing on the piano. Absolutely beautiful. And I must admit, it took me a while to my brain to figure out what it was. And purely, I think, because I was in the mindset of going, it's the end of this song. But then my brain kind of went, no, it isn't.
No.
It's that. But yeah, I thought it was amazing. And I'm presuming that on the album we get Deutchland. So I'm presuming we don't get that. And I'm presuming we don't get the song starting with what the video starts with, which is one of my favourite pieces of music from a movie ever, Beast from Sicario.
No, you don't get that.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the album probably doesn't need it, but like it. That when that come in, I was just like, oh my god, I love this. I mean, the only drawback to me was I then wanted to go and listen to the Sicario soundtrack, but but yeah, amazing intro, amazing usage of it in that. But yeah, I just wanted to check that we just get the Deutschland song on the album, and that was my assumption.
Yes.
It would make sense, wouldn't it? But yes. Anyone who is watching this for the first time, like I am, and you have any interest in, and you didn't know that bit of music at the start, it's Johanna Johannesson, unfortunately now deceased, but go and seek out his compositions for movies. They're amazing. Sicario being extra especially one of them, and a fantastic movie. So go and watch the movie as well. Probably in my top 25 movies of all time, possibly top 10.
So, the biggie, the video.
Yeah, I mean it's, and in fact, in a minute when you start talking, I am going to look up because I was quite interested to look up. I think it was Spencer Berlin. They said was the director of it, and not a name I'm familiar with. So really interested to kind of see what else Spencer Berlin has done. Whether it's just music videos or TV movie or anything like that. I don't. It, you said it a minute ago about that playing in multiple timelines seamlessly for me, and I know like it cuts from timeline to timeline, but somehow it managed to never feel jarring.
Yeah.
We've said this on certain other things before, where I was loving what I was seeing next, but I was missing what I'd just been seeing.
Yeah. So obviously, said it starts sort of Roman and then into sort of like the Saxony sort of period of witch finding and woodland life and
Yeah,
the Middle Ages.
yeah. I guess sort of like the start of, I say the start of civilization, but the start of civilizations. So people
Yeah.
grouping up into communities and towns, etc., etc.
Then got the 20s is in there as well with the good times, and then the not so fun times, and the bit that was one of the two reasons in this video that caused fuck tons of controversy.
I was going to ask because I assumed that that, and I'm assuming the other one's the cannibalism. I presume that they caused some degree of controversy, purely because we know how the world can be sometimes.
Yes. So obviously the Holocaust bit and the hanging did get a lot of shit. There was, I mean, they had to do a recut of the video for certain markets because they weren't allowed to show it. Just to, they could do the commandant in his Nazi Aprilia and them in the pajamas, the striped pajamas of obviously the Jewish
Yeah.
camps, but they couldn't show the hanging bits.
Okay.
In certain things, they had to change the video for that. But obviously, this is the full uncut one that
I guess
we've
it's that
done.
weird thing, isn't it? Of I mean, it's only 4 or 5 years later, but even 4 or 5 years later, I do wonder why. Because it's
But if you think this would have been around the same sort of time as Jojo Rabbit would have come
yeah,
out,
no,
so there
I
was
kind of I kind of go. It's not. When I think of things getting banned or being cut, you tend to go with, and like Rammstein have had some other ones that have had that. I don't want to say critical eye, but maybe overly critical eye is the honest truth. Cast over it, but I tend to go intent again. Is the intent here to cause offence or anything like that? And it doesn't feel like it to me. It feels like the ability to, or sorry, the intent is to portray an open conversation in a video about the history of Germany, and as you said earlier, the not hiding away from some of the bits that you could sidestep, but with that intent of going, let's learn from the good and the bad that we've had in our history. But yeah, it doesn't feel exploitative to me. It doesn't feel offensive. But of course, I'm saying that with an eye of going, I'm probably unlikely to think that. I don't come from Germany, where obviously there would be some sensitivity around that. I have sort of no links to the Jewish religion, so I guess for me they feel like they're important messages to make sure that are layered on. I've always been a kind of guy who's gone, never forget, because if we try to not focus on things that have happened in the past, and that's not just like this, but everything, if we forget, I think it brings us one step closer to things like this happening again. And I think it's important, and again, for everyone. There was a whole world going on around that time, but yeah, I think it surprises me when things are, especially when you come to sort of 2019. that there is much censorship of a video at all, and unless, as I say, like its intent is to go out there and really upset people or cause mass offence to them.
Yeah, it's I've obviously not knowing them personally, I can't sort of just discuss it with them and sort of go, what were your intentions? But to me, I don't I don't think it's there to be dickish or anything like that. It
No,
is
no.
literally to show that as a country, Germany does have its darker parts and the bits that the world needs to remember. Because you look at everything, sort of going back all the way back to the Romans. Shit repeats itself.
Yeah.
We should learn from history, and it's a way of not shying away from learning from the history.
Well, and in no way to lessen or to kind of soften the atrocities that happened, but there are atrocities throughout, as you say, throughout history, and this video touches on many years of in this case primarily German history, but the world's getting history through in this, and yeah, as I say, I think it's really important for us to never forget that atrocities happen, and some of the starkest, God, we're getting sidetracked, but some of the starkest things that I recently and this will date it. I recently watched Zone of Interest, which is a movie primarily set with one of the commandants of Auschwitz, and you're very much following his and the family's life whilst never directly looking inside the camp and things like that. And
Mm.
as I say, in no way does it feel exploitative, and in fact, if anything, it was one of the most effective movies I've ever seen, because all the way through it, and I was born after that. I weren't born that long after it, and we're not talking about this is something that happened 1,000 years ago. Haven't we evolved? Aren't we much better as a species? No,
Yeah.
this is again, depending on when you're watching this, within a century ago. But yeah, I mean, I guess there's so much more, and it's hard. Like, I know we're getting very kind of fixated on that, but I think it was just that surprise for me that that there was any censorship there, except for for any of our viewers actually in Germany, you might be able to clarify this. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was someone who actually works on Zone of Interest, and they were talking about whether there was any issues with clearing the fact that they were wearing Nazi uniforms, and relatively, well, I say relatively, I think very authentic ones. And the last, I think she's a producer, was talking about how in the UK, there's no kind of restrictions on that sort of thing, unless it's for, as we say, offensive reasons and things like that. But they did say that no, they couldn't get that cleared in Germany because it's not allowed to be used as a. Now, as I say, this is an English lady on a podcast talking about it, so correct me if you want. But yeah, it's something that you cannot do. You cannot. I guess use that in the form of entertainment, whatever your intent
Yeah.
is. So maybe some of the censorship drives from that. The lass who comes throughout. So they're
Germania.
and so is in your thought process on it, is she kind of the through line? Is she like the allegory for Germany throughout the video? Because that was kind of what I was taking from it on first watch, of going throughout this whole period, or throughout this video.
She is the personification of
Yes,
Germany.
yeah. And that's what I was kind of getting out of it. And as I say, there's so much to kind of, I was going to go bite into there. Probably really poorly chosen words, bearing in mind when they start biting into her. But I think that's the sort of stuff that's going to make me keep coming back and back and back to this. Because I think, as I say, with the lyrics of the song, but in that video, there's so much to dive into there, isn't there? Like, even with that part of it where you kind of go, okay, you can, and obviously we've just got very drawn into when they touched the World War II era. But what it's in all of those eras, what is the significance, or what is happening to Germania through those things, as in, and here we go, like this is probably my theory on it of going, art's very subjective, isn't it? And I think what we have here is something beyond the music video. We have art, and
Yeah.
some people will argue that making videos is an art form anyway. But I think sometimes you get something that and
There's there's
I'm
there's music videos, and then there's this.
yeah, and I'm putting like intent in them, but I think when I talk about subjectivity of art, a lot of that intent is driven by what you pull out of it, and that's why I'm kind of giving a really positive intent for what they're doing here, because every fibre of this feels to me like people who are trying to create something really important. They've got, and I say really important to say, I think they've got multiple things here that are really important to say, not just, like, as I say, it's not your kind of pro Germany touristing, but by the same token, it's not. Oh my God, why can't I remember what the America one is called? It's called America, isn't
America.
it? Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, how dumb am I? Like that is, I guess more of a damning piece, which probably doesn't have that quite so much that the leaning to the positivity as well. But yeah, this feels like a multifaceted, honest look at Germany now, but through the lens of Germany throughout history. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
wish I had more that I could talk about on the lyrics. Yeah, and as I say, I can only apologise for the fact that there's so much going on here. This does feel like if it was our fourth one, I think there'd still be, or fifth or sixth or seventh, there'd still be stuff we were going, oh, that lyric is that linking us to this, that part of the video is that is that, are we supposed to draw that from it? Yeah, bravo, hats off to you. I'm not wearing a hat, but hats off to you. I think that is bloody hell, what a way to start an album as well.
exactly, and when you, as I said, when you think it was like 8 or 9 years sort of wait,
Yeah,
and then you get that, and it's just
yeah.
like there's the gauntlet
It's a
laid
good
down.
we're back moment, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't come back with
Um,
like a softball, did they? They just didn't go, oh, come on, let's knock out a little ditty for him. Yeah, this is. But I mean, we say that. Obviously, where they go with their songs, be it talking about the political state of the world, where they get into some of the crunchy, let's say, subject matters that are affecting society, right the way back. And then into the creepy fairy tale, more poetic side of it. They certainly have managed to keep up for me that artistic greatness that I think they always strive for.
yeah.
Good on them.
And did you notice the red beams?
Yes, I did. Bloody hell, sorry, mate. I wrote down red beams. I wrote down
Which
red beams.
obviously, when we did, if you go right back to when we first started doing this, we were
Yeah,
doing the new album at the time, and all the new songs as they were coming out at the time. It was like, oh, the red beams. I hadn't put it together until sort
well,
of going through it all, and at the end of it, I was like, I'm pretty sure they were the red beams that were in some of the other videos.
and I wrote
And
down red beams first question mark because I couldn't remember. And again, chronologically, I couldn't remember those red beams appearing in any videos before this, other than
no,
us reacting to them out of order. So yes, red beams was something I wrote down.
yeah, so obviously they flow into the Zvite videos,
Yeah,
which is obviously the link. And at some point, once we've done all of these, I am going to watch all of the videos in order from here on out to
yeah.
sort of see what everything
Oh,
is
we
on the
said it
big
right
telly.
at the beginning of this: layering and layering and layering. So,
Yes.
we've talked about this. One of the reasons why we like to do albums, and sometimes there's a few gaps longer than we want to, because sometimes it's hard for us to sit down and have the ability to put the time into an album. But one of the things I think we both agree on what we love about albums is, or what we love about great albums is that ability to not just tell a story in a single song, but have a theme, a story, a feeling that goes through it. Whereas I think here what I'm starting to feel is that this is layering upon layering. This is not, here's an album, didn't we do good? here's another album. Didn't we do good? But no, there are through roads that come through everything they've created. And yeah, bit of a spoiler because I jumped ahead and started towards the end that some of those you could argue maybe even wrap up in the next album. Hope not though, because that would suggest we're not getting more. But again, yeah, red beams, headless tills, dogs. Lest we not forget that there are dogs in this video.
Yes.
Always a winner for me. But yeah, can't wait to dig back into this off air.
Yes. So we will be back with radio next. But until then, don't know. Let us know what you think. Like, subscribe to all the other YouTube
Fill
feeds.
in the comments lots of the blanks, and as I say, by the time this releases, I will have had a lot more time to kind of live with this song. So hopefully, I can discourse a bit smarter around it. But yeah, you know, like as I say, a song that feels like it's so rich and thick with content, symbolism, similes. Layer it into the chat for us, because yes, this feels like a song and a video that you could talk about with people forever and a day.
Exactly. So until next time, Auf Wiedersehen.